Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It's Jess here, and today I have a very fun guest and a very fun topic that I think we don't talk about enough. So I'm really excited to have Lindsey Konchar here, who is going to be talking to us about all the financial goodness and financial confidence. So welcome, Lindsey. How you doing?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm just so glad that you reached out to chat about this because I really think we just don't talk about money, especially as women, enough. And the more we can, I want to feel confident talking about money. And the more women can, I think we're gonna just take over the world soon if we could do that.
That's the goal, right? I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's what we all want, and I think we would be a better place for it. So that is the goal. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Can you tell us about you, Lindsay, and where your story got started as a financial therapist?
for sure. Yeah. So I am a financial therapist. I became a licensed therapist in 2019, and I was working at a clinic. It was great. And then I found out I was pregnant, and a month later, the pandemic happened. And so at that time, I was furloughed. I came home, and this was when we were still like wiping down groceries and all sorts of crazy things. And we didn't know what COVID could do to a baby or to a pregnant woman. And so I stayed home, and I became a stay-at-home mom very early on in my motherhood journey, aka baby still in belly. Um, which was fine, but I did miss my career. Even after baby got here, I missed my career. And so I started kind of dabbling into other things. But in 2022, I went to a personal development conference, and I really had this clear visual of like, I want to do something with money, because we had been on our own financial self-care journey for years at that point. And I just saw how much easier life can be when you have a handle on your finances, when you and your partner are on the same page with your finances. And but I thought to myself, I'm a therapist, like I went to school for therapy. Like who's gonna talk to me about money? And fast forward then a few months later, about 6 months later, I was listening to an audiobook, and I was driving, I was on my street, and the audiobook was totally unrelated to anything financial therapy related. But she did say the words financial therapist. And I literally paused the book, drove onto my driveway, parked my car, went like flying in the door. My husband was like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And I was like, "I need to Google something right now." And I did. And turns out, because I hold my MSW, my master's in social work, that I qualified for, a couple different certifications. And we have a 48-hour rule in our house. So I did wait the 48 hours. I talked through it with my husband a little bit, about what I saw for my career trajectory. And I got the certification. And as soon as I signed up for the program, I was waking up at 4:30 a.m. and was taking the course in the morning, and then during nap times and during nighttime. And for weeks, I did nothing but the certification program, as long as my baby was asleep or whatever. And it was so fascinating to me, and I could just feel it, like the whole world just aligned for me. And they always say you can look back and connect to the dots, and it truly feels like that for me, because I finally reached the point now where I have my own financial therapy business, and I merge financial, the cognitive behavioral therapy with financial education, and it's such a beautiful place. So that's kind of how I got here.
I love those aha moments. That is so cool when you're just it had nothing to do with what I was listening to at all, but it just happened and it clicked and it was the sign that you needed.
Yeah. And it was because I had never heard of a financial therapist before. So then I was like, oh my gosh, it is me. I am it. I want to do this.
You're like, that is exactly what I've been looking for. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think too for a lot of women, there's a lot of dreamers who listen to this podcast. I'm a big dreamer, so I like to like just visualize things and think about things. And oftentimes we get caught up in like I need to know what's next or what's out there. And for you, it just kind of came as like this like really beautiful sign. And as soon as you saw it, you could go, but sometimes it just has to show up in front of you at the right time. So I love that.
Yeah, and I had a lot of clarity around like what that might look like for me. Like I had all these ideas, but I'm not the person that believes, you need to have all the certifications and you need to have these accolades and you need like sometimes I'm like you can do whatever you want to do regardless of your credentialing and whatever. But for this specifically, I did feel like okay, but as a like I felt like I just needed something. And then yeah, when it came to fruition, I was like, we're here. It's great.
Oh, I love it. And also love that it came at the season of like while you were starting and like a young family, which I think too, oftentimes we think we have to put our life on pause, but you didn't do that. So
No.
I think that's so awesome. There's a lot of women who hold a lot of shame around money. I'm sure you talk to a lot of them and work with a lot of them. And I'm just really curious because I often attest this to like, well, we haven't been able to like do things with money for a really long time. Like we've only really been able to get a credit card for not that long, like for women. And I'm just really curious, how can we support women to have less shame around their finances and money when it comes to some of the things that you work with them on?
Yeah. Well, for one, I think shame lives in that dark black box, and we let it live there and thrive there and grow there. And instead of letting it be this really scary, dark abyss that we're unfamiliar with, we need to start opening up the box, right? And like shedding light on what's really happening time and time again, it never fails that as soon as we really start looking at the numbers, even if the numbers aren't telling us a story that we really want to necessarily see, without a doubt, every woman that I work with have said, I actually feel relieved though, because now I at least know where I'm at. And so if you are the person who, what we're talking about here is a lot of avoidance, right? And that's primarily what I see with women is they are avoiding their emails with statements attached to it, or they're avoiding their bills with or their mail with bills inside, or whatever it is, and or they're avoiding conversations with their partner or whomever about money. And so when we can stop avoiding and we can actually start looking at what's really happening, it becomes so much less scary, and we can really start moving forward and making a plan and then getting you into a place that those numbers are going to tell you a story that you're happy with.
Yeah, I think avoidance is probably the number one thing for a lot of people too. Yeah, we just don't want to look at it. There's so many people who say that, like, oh, I just don't feel comfortable opening it up and looking at it. Do you feel like there's things that anyone could do on their own before they reached out to you for financial therapy that could kind of start in the process? Because it might be really scary to reach out to you, Lindsay, and be like, hey, I know this is what you do, but I'm really messed up over here.
Well, that is part of it, right? Is we tell ourselves these stories of like, well, I know she sees people with like a lot of shame, but like not like me. Like
Hmm.
I'm worse than everyone else in that, or I'm just so bad with money. Like there's no hope for me. And the reality is that is simply just not true, right? Like but we tell ourselves this stuff. I think a couple things can happen. One is we really need to recognize that money habits are established by the time you are 10 years old. There's actually research out of the University of Michigan to support that. And so we know that your money habits came from how you were raised. And the reality is, it goes back to that avoidance, is right. We were told for our whole lives, we don't talk about money. It's rude to talk about money. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. We were told all of these money messages and these money scripts, and now deep inside of us, we hold them. And so, if you can take a little bit of time to realize, like, how did you grow up around money? What were the messages that you received? And oftentimes it was mixed messages. Like, we can't afford that. And yet, 2 days later, your parents might have come home with something that was ridiculously expensive. And you're like, wait, but you just told me I couldn't have the $10 toy. And now you're getting a grill that I don't want or care. You know what I mean? Like it was so misaligned. And so I think really exploring some of that. And if you're somebody that likes to journal, or if you're somebody, right, like there's things that you can do to process that on your own a little bit. But then also I have an intentional spending planner, which I built out. It's just compatible with Google Sheets. It's like $10 on Etsy. And you can literally plug it in your numbers and look at some of that on your own if you're not ready to open up to anybody, to me or to anybody else, about what the story is really telling you. And again, then at least you have some semblance of like, okay, here's where my debt load is at. Here's what I am spending in my day to day. Because until we know that information, it's impossible to move forward. You have to be able to look at what's going on in order to really, move forward again.
Oh, yeah. I never realized that your like money habits are formed before you're 10 years old. Like you're just a little baby.
Just a little itty bitty baby. I know.
Well, is there anything that you do to support your children through this to like help them to have financial, like, I don't know, confidence before? Because they're how old?
My kids are 2 and 4. We talk about money all the time in our household, and we do it very openly and not in a way like I really want to model to my kids that you can have a healthy, safe, happy, positive conversation around money. Because for me, money was fought about in my house all the time, that it ultimately led to my parents' divorce. And so for me as a young child, I didn't believe that you could have positive interactions about money. And I want to switch that for my kids. I want to break that cycle and show my kids that, like, no, money actually provides us this house that we love. Money provides us food that we enjoy eating. Money provides us the fun activities like going to the zoo or whatever, right? And so we talk about some of that. Like my 4-year-old will be like, Mommy, no, I don't want you to go see clients. And I'm like, well, honey, I love to see my clients. I enjoy my work. I get to do this. And also, mama gets to make money, and money is good, right? So like those are some of the messages that we're trying to teach them. And then also with my 4-year-old, we just started doing allowance with her. And I know allowance can be a little controversial. For some people, it's not right for everybody, but for us, she's a very responsible kid. She's very, we were gonna wait till she was fine, but we 5, excuse me. But we just felt like she was ready for it. And so I made like a little container, and it has invest, save, give, and spend on there. And every Wednesday she gets $4. And she puts a $1 bill in each of these containers, and we talk about what it all means, and what the differences between investing versus saving, and what does she want to save for. And then I took a very intentional trip with her to the store for her very first toy that she could buy herself. And I did so in a way that was all about her and her money, right? It wasn't like, oh, we have to go to Target anyway, so you can just get your toy while we're there. It was like, no, this trip is explicitly for her, so she can look around. And she bought her little Aurora Sleeping Beauty Barbie doll, whatever, and she loves it. And she was so proud of herself to do that. And so we've just set up some of these things. But I would say the biggest thing is like, we're also investing for her. We're doing some of this stuff. But if you're only going to give your kid money, but not actually provide any financial education around what that money should be doing for, like, it doesn't, right? So the best gift that you can give your kid is talking about money and doing so in a really healthy way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because even like it puts me back to like my childhood to be like, oh, like I got an allowance and like I went to the dollar store and buy my toys. Like it didn't have that same educational piece to it, which is so awesome. Obviously, I had like money, but like not looking back, there's so many different ways that it could have been taught. And as I'm getting ready to, start my own family, I'd love to know and like just understand how I can make it easier for them to be educated in this too, especially for the world that we're stepping into. So I think that's just like a really great, I don't know, a really great program to have to be able to support them and for you to even recognize that she was ready for it. Like that's awesome. So
Yeah, and
kudos to you.
every kid is totally different, right? We do a chore chart attached to her allowance. But her chores are like, go potty when we ask you, pick up your books, share with your brother, because we also were very much like, of course, some of these things are expected, but like having emotional intelligence is very important. And I think that should be rewarded, you know, in our house. So we've kind of done that. And then one of the other things, though, that I think parents can really consider is we have family meetings and we have them quite often. And we literally just get a talking stick. It's usually a paintbrush that my daughter chooses. And we all start and we say one thing that we're grateful for. And then we talk about whatever it is, whether it's like a weekend plan, like, okay, family meeting, let's make a plan for the weekend. Or, you know, we retired my husband in September. And before we did that, we held a family meeting and we said, look, daddy is thinking about leaving his job, which means he's going to be home with you guys a lot more. You're going to see daddy a lot more than you've been seeing him. But it does mean that we're going to have to make some different choices about not going to restaurants as frequently as we have been, right? And talking to them about what those trade-offs look like. Of course, you know, my 4-year-old was like, yay, daddy. And Coco was 1 at the time. So he was just happy to be talking into a paintbrush. But it was still like, we want to set the precedence for then by the time they are 8, 9, 10, 14, 18, they feel like they have a voice in our family decisions, right? And to know that this is how it works. Like daddy made a really good income and we were so lucky to have that, but we're choosing to walk away from that so we can have more time. And putting it in perspective of our values, right? And this is how money work becomes fun, is it's never about the money that's sitting in the bank. That's not, who cares? What it's about is what we're prioritizing, the values that we have, how we can be generous with our money, how money can take us on these amazing vacations or spend time with our loved ones or have a really fun Christmas or whatever. And that's the message that we want to portray to our kids.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it makes it a lot more fun to think of it in that aspect instead of like that shame and that daunting feeling around scarcity and not having enough and all of those pieces when we can look at it as what could be or what's fun or what we can balance out to make this work. Like what a gift it is to be able to have your partner home. Like I think that would be awesome to be able to retire my husband and have him home. So I think like yeah, the work you're doing is so special for a lot of people, not just for women, but for so many people. So I know there's a lot of people who are listening to this who have dreams of being more confident with money, who would love to be able to see like to see money through your eyes, Lindsay. Almost like you could sell like these goggles and they're like Lindsay goggles and you could like give them out to women and be like, this is how I see money and this is how I see the world. We want more of that. So what are the steps that someone would take to get there?
Great question. Again, I think looking at your numbers is so, so important. One of the things, though, that I really encourage women to do is there's really 2 things. One, I will die on the hill of intentional spending. I think it is so important and really life-changing when you can get a solid understanding of what your baseline level of happiness is and understand that we are currently in a place where it is so easy to spend money and it is, you know, convenience can be actually like the demise of our financial futures because, oh, I'm hungry. So I'm going to sit on my couch instead of getting my butt up and making something from my fridge. I'm just going to order DoorDash. And right, it's not only the demise of our health in many ways, but it's also the demise of our financial health. And so I think recognizing some of that, but like, is that DoorDash order bringing up your baseline level of happiness? Or is that Amazon order, that Ulta order, whatever it is that really moving the needle on like your overall happiness? Or is that a quick hit of dopamine that you want just to feel good in the moment? As moms, as women in general, we carry a lot of mental load. We carry a lot of, you know, just exhaustion of day to day life, which fine, but we're often looking for ways to feel better, feel entertained, not feel so bored, feel distracted, right? And all of these things come through in our purchases. Oftentimes, we are spending money as a coping skill. And so, when we can start understanding what are the things that really move the dial for you specifically, that's going to look different for you, Jess, than it is for me, than it is for the woman listening. Like, it's different for all of us. And that's a beautiful thing. There's certain things, like tangible things that I would buy that you would be like, never in a million years would I care about that, and vice versa, right? And that's okay. But there's other things that are going to universally move that needle, which oftentimes comes down to like connection, right? One thing that I love spending money on is seeing my girlfriends, whether that's just grabbing a cup of coffee somewhere, that's going out to a fun dinner with all of us. We do Secret Santa every single year. We usually take 2 to 3 girls trips a year because that's so important to me. And I am 100% all in. Like, yes, you guys want to go to Arizona? Boom, let's get on a plane and do it. Because that to me is filling my cup versus wandering around some store and getting 2 sweaters and 8 pairs of leggings that I really don't need because my closet is full enough, right? Like, I don't like that kind of stuff doesn't move the needle as much for me. Of course, there are going to be clothes and items that I need, and that's fine. But I really try to not look at my life through a lens of lack and instead be like grateful for the things that I have. I am very intentional about, like, for example, we added a third bedroom to our home. And when I was, putting our bedroom together so the kids could have their own bedrooms, I was so intentional about every single item that is in my bedroom because I wanted it to be something that had a purpose. It wasn't just there just to be there, right? And just take up space. Like, I wanted it to be practical and purposeful and aesthetically pleasing and something that I enjoyed, right? And I think moving through the world that way can really shift so much for us when you put that intentionality back into your money management. That's really a game changer for everyone.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. And I see just in the world that we're living in now, and the social media and the fast-paced world and the Amazon Primes and the DoorDash, we're really lucky because DoorDash doesn't come out to where we live. We live out in the sticks, which I love, but not everyone loves this, but I like being out here. And just like the world has so much of this convenience piece to it, right? That makes it really hard for us to even put the blinders on. Like it's just so easy to grab the extra candy bar or to, grab and go your takeout on the way home or whatever for you. And I'm just curious when it comes to just social media in general too, because like you're scrolling and you see all these people on all these amazing trips, or you see all these people, with their Sheen hauls or whatever they're buying, and you're just like, okay, like I see you. I'm not a stuff person, but I know there's a lot of people listening who like to have things and like to have nice things. How can we put the blinders up when it comes to social media and that comparison game of us like, oh, well, I need to have that. Even right now in the season of becoming a mom, like there's so many things. Oh my gosh, like the feed is full of like best baby items and you need these baby items. And I'm like, do I really? Like, I don't know. And it can be really distracting when you have financial goals and when you have things you want for your future family. But also, the world is telling you consume, 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 get more stuff. Like, how do we combat this?
Yeah, comparisonitis is a real thing and it is a trap, right? And so I'll say a couple things on that. One, we are inherently programmed to want to belong. Right. So when we see not only the people like in real life, but like also everyone on social media, for example, Stanley Cups. I don't have a Stanley Cup, right? But every single woman that I is in my sphere has a Stanley Cup or 18. And we are convinced that we need them because everyone has these Stanley Cups. And what actually is beneath the surface of that, and this is where like my job as the therapist comes in, right? Is really like those buying habits aren't because you're faulty or flawed. It's because you want a sense of belonging, and because all these other women have Stanley Cups, I want to have a Stanley Cup because I want to belong, right? And that's true for a lot of fast fashion stuff that we're talking. Is like the bucket hats is definitely in that category, right? Like there's so many of these trends that you can point to, like the Nike socks, the Nike crew socks or whatever. Like that was a thing for a long time that was like, oh my God, you're a millennial if you don't have Nike crew socks. And everyone was like, I need to have not like I need to not be a millennial. And I'm like, hey, what's wrong with being a millennial? And also I'm not buying new socks. My socks are fine, people. So I think just like understanding some of these more like deeper seated issues that again, it's not necessarily just what you know, it's what else is going on, that like a bigger macro level issue here. But that sense of belonging is a real driver for making purchasing decisions, so there's that. What also comes down to really taking the time to understand what you want personally. And again, that's okay to be different than the sphere of what's happening. But when you have this really strong visual of what you see for yourself in your life, it makes it so much easier to not buy the crap impulsively, because you can like look at your goals. I call them your north stars, because they're really your guiding lights for like, okay, is this aligned with my north stars? If not, I'm not going to buy it. But I can tell you, actually, there's a in 2023, it was, so Black Friday is like my day. I love Black Friday. I love to shop for all my Christmas presents on Black Friday, but I also like to shop for me on Black Friday because like good deals. Hello. And so that's always like my, like I wake up before the kids are even awake and I'm out the door and I don't come home until the evening, and it's amazing. I love it. And so on Thanksgiving night, the night before Black Friday, my husband, we were kind of going back and forth on where should be our next international trip. And we didn't really know for sure. But that night he rolled over and he was like, okay, I think I'm good with Portugal. Like, I think and that was my choice. So I was like, oh my God, yes. Okay. So we put it in our savings bucket, like on our goal list, like we're doing Portugal. That's the plan. And the next day, as I'm out on Black Friday shopping around, I literally was like holding up a sweater and I'd be like, that's really cute. And I'd put it in my basket or whatever and kind of meander around a little bit more. And then I'd think about it and be like, okay, the sweater is a good deal, but for $40, I would rather put that $40 in a savings bucket and see myself in the plaza with my kids running around, fountain nearby, splashing and having a fun time, me with my port wine, sitting at the bistro table with my husband. Like, I had such a clear vision of what that looked like for us and what that did for, again, my overall base level line of happiness, that like that sweater, that $40 sweater, I was like, yeah, it was cute. I probably have a couple of occasions I could wear it to, but I also have multiple other sweaters at home that I don't need this one. And I would immediately, so like literally I put it back and I immediately transferred $40 into my savings bucket. And when we have those clear visuals, those clear goals that really mean something to us, it changes the way we move through the world, and it changes the way we make purchasing decisions.
Oh, that's so cool. Like, what a clear moment for you to just be like, oh, yeah, I don't need the sweater anymore. Like, I can't wear it in Portugal. It's gonna be nice and warm, thankfully. So,
That
um,
is the plan.
that's the plan. Do you have a plan? Are you going?
We've pivoted a little bit. We actually think we're doing Costa Rica, but Portugal is still kind of on our greater plan without getting too much into it. We want to homeschool our kids, but we actually want to world school our kids,
Cool.
aka travel around the world and teach them along the way. So we're hoping when the time comes, when my kids get a little bit older, Portugal would then be kind of like our home base for that,
Awesome.
and take it from there. So yes, it will still happen. It's just probably happening a little bit different than that initial, which again actually speaks to like your goals do not need to be set in stone, but I think having that direction and then having that fun dialogue, whether you're solo traveling or you're traveling with your girlfriends or you and your partner are talking about this stuff, it's so fun to have those conversations and then like, okay, reverse engineer the numbers. Like, what do we need to actually make this happen and come to fruition in our lives?
Ugh, yeah, that sounds freaking fun.
It's
Like
so
to
fun.
worlds teach your children as you go. Like travel around and do all these things. Like,
Yeah,
let's go.
let's go.
I
Let's do
can't wait
it.
to watch. That sounds so fun. Can we chat real quick too about the people who are not making as much as they wish they'd be making right now? So maybe they're in a job that pays a little less than they had hoped for, or they're working in a business and it's not as financially strong as they had hoped for in this season. What would be some of like the financial goals for them or the financial self-care for them to help get to that place of feeling more secure? Or like what are the things that they could do in this season to help get them forward, even if they're not making as much as they had hoped?
Yeah, so there's a couple different directions with this. I would say the very first thing is I think of this as like tiered living. So there's like your basic level of living, then there's your comfort level of living, and then there's kind of your luxury level living. And I think it's important to have numbers attached to all of these things. So for us, like we're very clear on like our bare bones basic level living is X, right? And then our comfort level, meaning we would have extra surplus, which would provide us maybe an extra trip or two throughout the year or whatever, whatever it is this. And then our luxury level living is above that, right? And so then reverse engineering those numbers to really understand what it is that you need and where you're kind of falling in that continuum is a good place to start. If you are, running a side hustle in a business and you want to get into that, then there's certainly infinite opportunities to make more money, which is the cool thing. So I think understanding what is working well in your business, what is not working well in your business, what we got to do there, like there's, I mean, that's a whole episode on how to, increase the income coming into your business. The other thing though is if you are a W-2 employee or a contracted employee for an employer, you don't be afraid to change jobs. Don't be afraid to ask for the raise, whatever it is, and obviously do this in succession. And I think some people have this idea that like, oh, you just go in and ask for the raise and they give it to you. No, like this is a planned thing between you and your manager or your boss. And you say, hey, these are the income goals that I really want for myself. How can we make that happen? And what do I need to do to ensure that that's, the trajectory that I'm on? I think our parents for so long had this company loyalty for, and that's some of the messaging that we've been passed down. I remember my brother was job hopping for a while, and my parents were both kind of like separately to me, were kind of like, ooh, I don't know, like it's not going to look very good on his resume. And I was like, the hell it's not. This is like great. Good for him. He's getting an increase every single time he's switching those jobs. And there's a stat out there. It's like you get a 10% pay increase every time you switch. But I think people make a lot of excuses around like, oh, now I have to update my resume, and applying for jobs is a process. Of course it is. Of course it is. But if that's going to actually move the needle and get you to an income level that is going to support the lifestyle that you want, then, that's where it's at. You gotta make the sacrifice and make the time to do that. Not saying that it's easy. It's certainly not easy, but nothing in life, is. And so I think really starting there is a good place to start, whether it's asking for that raise or looking at jobs to switch to, or in your business, if it's, creating that side hustle, and, or if you're in your business full time. We're also in this space where we see a lot of women crushing it in the entrepreneurial space, which is amazing. But then that comparisonitis creeps back in. What is she doing that I'm not doing? Why is she getting this and I'm not getting that? And so I think if we can really stay in our own lane, and I don't think it's a bad thing to invest in a mentor and figure out, what else you can be doing in your business to grow it a little bit. It's kind of a chaotic answer, but I feel like there's a lot of different ways. So is there anything that I can clarify on any of that for you?
No, that's perfect. And I actually am really grateful that we've stepped away from that like brand loyalty, that business loyalty thing that our parents did have. My parents are business owners, so it's very different. Obviously, they're going to be loyal to their brand because they're owners. But the world that we were taught to grow up in was like, get the job, stay in the job until you retire, get that pension. And I'm just so glad that that's not the way anymore, because there's so many different things you can learn. There's so many different things you can, pursue and grow with. And especially that financial aspect of it. Like searching for jobs right now is kind of, in our pocket. Like if you were to look for a job, for anybody listening who's in the employed space, like that's really great for you, because there's a lot more opportunities than there was back when our parents were doing this. So I always find that aspect really, really cool, that we're not that loyal to the companies anymore, unfortunately. If you're listening to this, sorry, but like seriously, how great is it that we have more opportunities than our parents did in this situation? So, as we get ready to wrap this up, do you have any like advice that you'd be like, this is like my top piece of advice, whether that's financial, whether that's mom life, whether that's, Lindsay's advice? Like, what is it that you would want to share with women listening?
Yeah, I think really it comes always back for me to that intentionality piece, and really like making sure you're staying in your own lane of things that you want. It's so easy to get wrapped up in what everyone else is doing. And that is true for across all walks of life, whether it's in your business, it's in motherhood, it's whatever. And so making sure, like, I remember as a new mom, I was like trying to do these crazy things. Like I literally just, oh my God, I was breastfeeding my baby making jam on the stove, homemade jam, which I do not belong in the kitchen, period. It's so bad. I have no business there. But literally trying to make homemade jam, also vacuuming at the same time that I was breastfeeding my baby, doing all these things. And I walked past my full length mirror and I remember being like, who are you? What is this? And immediately I was like, I need to stop. I need to recalibrate. This is not me. This is not like the motherhood experience that I want to have. Like, what am I even doing? And I stopped trying to make jam because it was ridiculous. And then I booked a hiking trip for just me and my daughter. And we went and we had like a 3-day trip. She was 6 months old. I breastfed her on the trail. Like, and I was just in the space where, like, because hiking has always been a part of my life. And why did I think once I had a kid, I couldn't do that, you know? And same with like the financial piece. It's like, yeah, I wasn't contributing at that point financially to our family. So it caused me all this like like cognitive dissonance and things. But once I could get back to like the things that like I could do and the things that I loved, it changed everything for me. I was enjoying motherhood so much more. I was enjoying my life so much more. And I think once we can turn down the noise of like, this is what it means to be a good mom, or this is what it means to be a good business owner, or this is what it means, right? These messages that are so confusing and conflicting, that if we can just turn down that noise and really turn inward into the things that we want and see for ourselves in our future, like the world school stuff. It's like, okay, people might not understand that or not see the point in it. And that's okay. You don't have to, because that's something for me and my family that we're excited about. And it's okay that somebody else isn't interested in that, you know? And just as I'm not going to judge somebody else for if you want to go to public school and be, you know, obsessed with your kids' sports, like cool, like that, if that's your, like, you know what I mean? So like, I think this, like how much judgment we have in all these different areas is complicated and complex. But if we can really turn back into the things that we want and put that intentionality back into our lives, back into our spending, back into how we want to show up with our money, it makes all the difference.
Oh, yeah. I love that. When you do world school with your kids, are you going to go to Canada?
I mean, duh.
Okay, good, good. Can't wait. So
I know.
excited.
Nova Scotia is like high on the list. We would love to get
Oh,
up there.
it's the best.
I want it.
So
I
I
want to
can't
see it
wait.
so bad. Yeah.
That's
And we
so
want to come see the
awesome.
polar bears. There's like a million
Yeah,
up and around.
they're everywhere. They're in my backyard right now.
Nuh-uh.
No, they're
Oh, I was
not.
like, you're
That's
totally
a
lying.
joke. No, I have never seen a polar bear. But
Aren't you
you could go
further
more
north?
north. Yeah, just
Yeah.
keep going
Just
up.
keep going up, 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 and up. Yes.
It's good.
My husband's grandparents went up into Canada to go see all the polar bears, and it was like their favorite trip ever. And they like
No
loved it.
way.
Yes. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
you're gonna have to go up, 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 up.
Yeah.
But, you know, it'll be
We'll
up
get
there.
there.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
can't
got
wait.
time. We got time.
Yes. Lindsay, where can our listeners connect with you online, find you, find your podcast, all of the things?
Yeah. So I am financial therapist Lindsay on Instagram. It's the only social media that I'm really on. So you can come message me there. I'm a solopreneur. So it is always me in my messages or emails or all the things. And then my podcast is Financial Self Care with financial therapist Lindsay. Pretty simple to find, and it's awesome. So you can learn about money stuff there. I actually just released an episode about Enneagram types and how each manage their money. And it's like going kind of crazy. People are really liking that one. So if you want to check that one out, it's fun. And then my website is financialselfcareblog.com. And that has my, financial therapy page. You can learn everything about what I do, find the podcast, find blog posts there, free resources, all sorts of stuff. So there you go.
Amazing, amazing. I will put all that information in the show notes so people can check it out and connect with you, Lindsay, because I think we need more of Lindsay in our lives. A little bit more financial talk and a little bit more of that confidence around our finances. Because again, women are going to take over the world. If we can figure this out, we're taking over the world.
We
So
are.
I
We
can't
are.
wait.
Yeah, I'm
I
here to defluence you from buying shit on Instagram so you can come follow me. So I
Yeah.
am in your ear constantly being like, Lindsay says I don't need this.
Yeah, I don't need that 18th Stanley. I don't even know where are these people putting them all. Like I don't have enough storage room for like the
I
cups
get
I do have.
overwhelmed if I have like more than 3 water bottles in my cabinet. I don't have any idea where the Stanleys go. Although I suspect one in the car, one on the nightstand, one on the desk, one, I don't know, maybe they're just everywhere.
Maybe.
I don't
Maybe they're
know.
just, yeah, maybe they're just everywhere. But yeah, you do you, but I don't know. It stresses me out too. I have a few questions I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is your favorite compliment to receive?
Um, I love when my clients come to me and say, I didn't buy this thing because I heard you talking like literally me chirping at them or like, like I love that. I guess I take that as a compliment of like when they're like, Lindsay, your voice was in my head telling me that I didn't need it. I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing.
You're like, yes, I love being in your head.
I love it.
Oh,
Can I show up in your
so good.
dreams too?
Yes. Oh, so good. What is your favorite thing to do to boost your mood when you're feeling grumpy?
Go for a walk outside.
Yeah, touch
Nice
some
little
trees,
hike.
baby. Oh yeah. I'm with you.
Hmm.
When you said you
Hug
went
them
on
all.
when you went on a hike with your baby, I'm like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
handle that. Like
Yeah,
that
you
sounds
can.
real nice.
It
I
is
can't
real
wait.
nice. Love it.
And do you have a song or a quote that boosts your confidence?
Ooh. The song by Kesha, what is it? It's I'm a woman. Do you know this
Oh
one?
yeah, it's called Woman, I
Is it
think.
called Woman? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that song. Anytime that song comes on, I'm like, I am powerful. I am it. I am everything.
Oh, yeah, so good. That is a good one. That's
Good
a
one.
powerful song.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Lindsay, for being here and for sharing all your knowledge with us and just being
Yes,
you. We appreciate your financial magic over here.
of course. Thank you for having me.
What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you love this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.